And now you can start the cloud recording.
Does it work?
Mm-hmm.
Great.
So hi everyone, welcome to our 3.5 edition of MED. Why 3.5? We all know that the first MED started in March 2020. We wanted to do it in Philadelphia, but due to the pandemic, it was not possible. So we switched to online, and it was the MED blockchain edition. The second MED was the MED AI edition. And those two MED conferences together led to our Springer book publication, which is coming on the market quite soon in March 2020. It was a lot of work. And thanks to a leisure, we finally managed to publish with Springer. Then exactly a year ago, we had a MED edition about game crime. Half a day like today with no separate anthology, just for us to get together and enjoy working on our topic. And today we have another edition of the MED conference. It's basically, again, friends meeting each other, talking about subjects that we like. And it is again at the end to write an anthology, to write a book together. So everyone who loves to contribute, please submit the call to your friends, families, and fellow researchers, so that by Easter next year, we have a book published at the Danube University Publishing House at this time. My colleagues are, in regards of organizing today's event, Alessia Serrada from the University of Vasa. You already got to know her, and the reindeer and the snowman, and Natalie Denk from Danube University. And I'm really glad that also Alexa Dingley from University of Malta and Michael Wagner from Drexel are going to join us today for a talk. And of course, historically, Texas A&M with Andrea Thomas and MIT with Scott Osterweil are also involved in the history of the MED conference. So let me start my talk, and I just reset the time. And my talk is about the introduction to blockchain use cases to be found outside of the speculation mania. Because when we read about blockchain use cases in the newspapers and magazines, it's almost about cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin or alternative coins like Ethereum or others are going up and down and up and down. And then we learn a lot about fraudulent use cases on around the topic of blockchain. And my goal for today is to give you or to show you some projects where we use blockchain as technology, doing the exact opposite as everyone else. So we do not have, most of the cases, we don't have a bridge to fiat currencies. It's only about securing sensible data and bringing ownership back to the users. But let me start with some speculation. As we also have a talk about the NFT magic later on today. I participated in the NFT Magic Christmas calendar challenge, and I had to paint a Frenchie and upload it as an NFT. And so this is something I did today. And later on, after the conference, if anyone likes to purchase it, I will sell this wonderful NFT, and I will use the cryptocurrencies you might give me for a good cause. So think about it. I think it's a wonderful, unique painting, and later on, I'm sure you will make a lot of money with it, but it's of course not financial advice. About me, I'm now back at Danube University. I'm going to head the new Emergent Technologies Lab, which is part of the Applied Game Studies Center. And the last 2 years, so to 1920, I spent at the MIT Educational Card working on blockchain in the educational sector. And well, I have my doctorate from the Wirtschaftsuniversität Wien and approaching my second doctorate at the University of Malta. I'd like to talk today about 4 use cases. So the one is the blockchain and education use cases embedded within a serious game and an e-learning tool that we developed. And I also like to talk about Hot City and Cycle for Value, projects that were awarded with the Austrian Blockchain Award, or at least made it in the top 3. And then I like to also talk a little bit about a game-like approach that Alessia and I work on currently, and it is called the Untrust Us game. So let's start with blockchain and education. So the three approaches are game-based learning and assessment, e-learning and assessment, and in-person and online conducted oral exams where you directly give a grade using blockchain tokens. And let me start with some theory, because a token or an asset is not an asset. So as many blockchains exist, and to demystify blockchain a little bit, blockchain is nothing else than using a certain way how to store data in a database. And we all know databases like PHP or MySQL databases, the most common databases that are involved when we look on websites, and blockchain as technology is just another way how to operate a database. And there are many approaches how a blockchain could look like. So in the good old times, we were talking about the blockchain, and then we meant Bitcoin, but now it's differently, and there's so many different ways how to use blockchain as technology out there that this would be a lecture on its own. But on a blockchain, you can create assets, tokens, what I'm doing, or what we are doing in our project most of the time, is that we want to prevent those tokens to be traded. We want to prevent those tokens to leave the account. For example, the game sends it to after the assessment procedure. And so we call it non-tradable, or maybe a restricted transferable utility tokens. So the trade has to be verified through approval models each time a token is sent from one account to another. And so the first example, blockchain in the gaming sector with the Game Gallery Defender. The Game Gallery Defender has been built or developed by the Live Lab of Texas A&M University. It's now part of a bigger educational game, but I'm really happy that I was able to use it here for this use case, together with me at that time being part of the MIT Educational Card, with Natalie's team of Danube University, the Austrian Academy of Sciences, and we chose the blockchain Ador for doing so. So basically you start the game screen, then you can test everything without actually playing the game. And then you can either play the tutorial, you practice, you simulate the exam, or you go for the assessment level. And if you go for the assessment level, the game is giving you a warning that, listen, now your score is actually being recorded. You're getting graded. So for example, you only have 4 possibilities to do so. If by student law, for example, you have 4 possibilities to take an exam. So in the game, it's quite simple. You play the owner of a gallery, and you have to defend it to a thief, and you defend it through knowledge. And in the easiest version, it's just knowing about art styles. And so the thief has a turn, then you have a turn, and if you know 2 times right the right art style, the thief cannot steal the painting, and you get a point. So usually this assessment takes about 5 to 6 minutes, and then you get a grade. So you see your total time, the number of correct answers, the number of wrong answers, and your grading. And here we see the screen with an A grade. And this is what's happening on the blockchain. So basically, you receive from the main account of the game, signed by the teacher, who is where you can basically use a digital identity to ensure that the teacher is enrolled or is working with a particular research institution or university or school. And then you receive the token with the grading. It's of course encrypted, as it's private information. And if you are the owner of your key, then the message is getting decrypted, and as you can see here, it equals the screen that you receive after the game. What we also worked at is that if you receive such a grade, such a certificate, you are going to create a shared key, And the shared key can be, for example, then used to tell your future, to give it to your future boss when you apply for a job, so the future boss can verify that, that the information that you provide is actually correct. Of course, with the shared key, this person could do it forever. So in the final version of the development of the app, with the shared key, you will be able to create you can link email addresses and certain time frames to it. So you allow someone, for example, for 1 week to access the data. And for me, or for us, this is key that we have in the future our learning credentials, our certificate stored on a decentralized network where you are the owner of the information, and you can decide with whom you like to share it, and that everything is connected with digital identities and digital signatures to make it verifiable and to have a clear and clean chain of trust. There is one, so the second approach is Gallery Defender, the quiz app. And it's quite similar at the end of the day, but from a technical perspective, there is a huge difference. Here we created 100 million pieces of the learning token or the grading token, one each for the teacher, one for the learner. And there's also something special for the teacher. There we use a technology where we can say, okay, at this certain block height, which is the time on a blockchain. So with the block height, you can calculate like what's happening, in which block height will be in 5 years from now. Then we delete the metadata from the blockchain, meaning that the nodes are no longer processing the metadata. But of course, that the transaction has been happening, is still processed. So this is what we did here with the token to the teacher. The token to the learner, of course, will not be deleted, as this information should stay on the chain forever. But as in with the game, we created 100 million tokens. That then is going to be used to put the metadata into the encrypted message attached. For the Gallery Defender, the quiz, we created for every single learning results one singleton token, something that we should have simply called NFT and write all the papers with, we use NFTs for education. So probably more newspapers would have written about the project, because what I experienced the last years is, or the last 2 years, is that people love NFTs but hate blockchain. And I said recently on Twitter that this is like if you love a letter but hate books, as an NFT is a singleton token, is one single token without decimals, which exists on the blockchain, which has a unique token ID address, and where you can use the token properties to put information in it, and also the encrypted message. So you have two possibilities to brand your token, so to say, or to fill it with information and to kind of make it alive. So it's quite similar, but in this time, every time it's similar to the other project, but every time you enable the laser pointer, every time you get a grading, you see that at first we create the singleton token, so we have to pay a fee. Then we put the message on the singleton token, and after all this is done, the newly created asset plus the message is sent to the learner. And this is on testnet, so the costs are zero, obviously, because it's testnet's token have no value. But if this would be on mainnet, this approach would be much more expensive than if we created tokens one time and then use it for many years. So the second project is Cycle for Value. It's a baby of Thomas Wernbacher, basically. And because it's his topic, cycling, and I was only responsible for the token economics. And it's a gamification approach where we like to encourage people to use the bike more often. And for the first 8 kilometers that you ride your bicycle, you get a cycle token. And this cycle token can then be used as a voucher to redeem certain gifts and prizes, or go shopping with partner shops. And the token economics are a little bit more sophisticated than that simple description. So we created a counter for all kilometers from all cyclists, which is going up. And then we created the cycle token, which can then be converted to the vouchers. Then you can send the vouchers to the shops. And then, of course, we also have described how this could lead to an automated process that the shops that accept the cycling token will then get a regular payment from our bank account to their bank account. For example, in German we say Konto Korrent. If we say every month, we start the payment old school, so there is no risk for our partners. At the end, this should help that people love to ride their bike a little bit more with the gamification, with getting the incentives, and therefore keep the CO2 output per person lower than it is now, and at the end save money, and also it should also lead to a healthier behavior. So here you see some screenshots from a transaction, again on the Ardor network, the Cycle for Value wallet, and some shops that accepted the cycle coin. And here we have some happy guests of the Café Virginia at Danube University, or some other coffee shops like Duck Coffee in Graz that participated within this project as partners. The third project I'd like to introduce is called Hot City, with the Austrian Institute of Technology as consortium lead. The main goal is to create smart districts, meaning that we use heat that would have gotten lost to the air, and then install converters and reconvert this lost heat and heat nearby apartments. And we wanted to include the general public to be the scouts for those heat leaks. So in Graz and Vienna, we divided the city into squares, and we let them go out and make photos, so following our instructions. And then a machine learning algorithm decided if the photos are valid or not at this point or coordinates in the city. And then people were able to validate if this information is true, so to say, and then experts came at the end to look into this, if you can install such a converter there. And again, like quite similar to Cycle for Value, those who were good scouts received tokens that they could then convert for goodies. But the gamification here was also quite sophisticated, because we have divided the tokens into 3 colors: bronze, silver, and gold. So you got a bronze token for kind of every photo you uploaded. And if an expert, for example, validated, and finally, for example, the converter is being installed, then you receive a gold token, and the gold token is, of course, much more worth than a bronze token. Someone has his or her
Hey guys.
the microphone turned on, so please turn it off. And here you see again.
You muted me. I'm not doing anything.
Okay.
Excuse me. Can you shut the fuck up?
What college did you guys go to? Did you guys go to Squidward Community College?
Shut the fuck up.
Natalie, can you please kick?
I hate black peoples. Nigga.
Yeah.
This is so funny, man. Oh my god. Wow.
Let's kick this person.
It's good now.
let's continue with the talk. So here you see, and for those who study media and pedagogic, this is the reason why it's not a good idea to give to post the link public, but I decided again, and maybe this was a mistake, to do so that we have a bigger audience. I haven't had Zoom bombing for a while, so it was great to learn that it is still a thing. Here you see the two screens next to each other, so what people see in the app and the respective transaction on the other network. And the third game is my approach together with Alessia Serrada. And our idea was that, so our hypothesis is basically that on the one hand, you have blockchain as maybe the most secure database you can use for storing sensible data, and you have the full ownership and everything. On the other hand, you need digital identity to prove who is actually putting this information on blockchain, because what is the best database for if you do not know who basically is responsible for putting the data into it. That's why we have KYC processes in place when you go for a cryptocurrency wallet. And then we wanted to design a game where we, on the one hand, create this chain of trust between the editors and journalists of a newspaper, and on the other hand, create a game where, although there is a chain of trust, and although we store the information on blockchain, and although we use digital identities, we gave the people quests, and you get points when you achieve the quest, but you get even more points if you write if you achieve the quests using a fake report and that people believe you, although you use blockchain. So for example, here you see that we use other addresses for the press club, for the Gazzetta, and for being a journalist. So, but you can, of course, as someone who likes to publish fake news, create an account yourself, which is then not linked to the press club, because the main idea is that all journalists are registered at the press club. And if the people reading it are not actually checking the chain of trust and are not checking the accounts being related to each other, then for them it might be possible to spread the fake news, and it might have even more impact, because people say, wow, this person which said this or that used blockchain technologies and digital identity to spread the news. So I believe it, but I don't need to check. Why should someone spread fake news and securing it with such technologies? So while we have a powerful tool here to create a chain of trust and to verify information from journalists and photographers, it might also be misused for such purposes. So here you see one of those tasks where we said the new house in Vienna is blue, and people have to tweet and write stories about that. And this is the technical part, how the JSON file looks like, how the transaction looks like. And then we transferred this game to Twitter, and people had to tweet about this, and then the Gazzetta verified information, and then the verified information is here on the blog. And then there is a poll on Twitter if people believed or believed not. And following the results of those polls, our gamers. So we only did this as within a role-playing group. This was not a public game. So the first iteration was between a small group of researchers, but it was quite fun to play it. And I think our next approach is that we actually try to build a role-playing game, a text adventure maybe. So we for the next iteration, we try something else a little bit. We were talking about this earlier this morning, but I'm quite sure that we continue with this topic, because it's a hot topic, fake news, and how to prevent it, and how to educate more about it. So the general findings to conclude from all my projects and how you can use blockchain technologies in a good way. is that a public blockchain is to be used, or a combination of a private or consortium blockchain, in a setting that makes sense. What does it mean? For some settings, like what I was talking a bit earlier with the grading, maybe the education ministries of the county and the country, and cross-border in the European Union and cross-border worldwide, run their own nodes. But at a particular point of time, like every 30 minutes or whatever, the hash which is created of all the data at a particular point in time, a particular snapshot of the blockchain, is being broadcasted to a public blockchain. So you ensure that the data is not retrospective manipulated, that you can ensure, because you can always compare it with the hash of the snapshot. And then if you would manipulate data in the past, this hash in the database would be differently. But of course, the costs of operating a blockchain and paying the transaction fee would be much, much lower. Tokens cannot be retransferred to users freely. If you have a utility token which you do not, so like storing again a grade, for example, then it needs to be possible that you set approval models with the master account, and that you can ensure that you have still control of the token economy, still control in the meaning that if I give someone a certificate that he or she passed Danube University, then this person should not be able to send it to another person, so that this person can fraudulently say he or she or they passed the university. The transaction fees should never be paid by the users. If it's such an application like storing grades, it makes no sense. So the issuer of the system has to be in his or her hands to pay the fees. It needs to be possible to encrypt and decrypt messages, and to obviously build this chain of trust, and to keep private information obviously private. So while on the one hand we have the history of transaction public, we want private information to stay private, and this you can achieve with a shared key system, as I demonstrated before. And also that at a certain point of time you can make sure that the nodes do not need to process all the data anymore, but only the proof of the initial transaction itself remains, but not the private data. This is to prevent the blockchain bloat. Also very important is that users can operate a full node, and a full node that you can run on your own PC, on a Raspberry Pi, whatever, on your smartphone in the best case, so that you have full ownership of your data. Because if you look onto a blockchain through a website, it's also quite easily possible to manipulate it. And in this case, you are the boss of your data. And then we need digital identities in place, KYC, as I said before. So we can either work with government-issued identities or other forms of identities. This is a huge research field at the moment. And then we need a wallet as we are used to, which is storing the cryptocurrencies, but we need it in this particular case to store our utility tokens. And so this is like one slide which shows what I'm working at, or my vision, that we have this wallet storing your cryptocurrencies and your utility tokens. Utility tokens are the learning credentials, is your health data, whatever, highly secured. You're the owner of the data. You can use your private key, to exactly control what's happening with your data. You have certain kind of digital identities in connection with your wallet, and you decide per use case which kind of identity you need. This data is, this wallet is possible of multi-chain processing, so that it's not just one particular network which processes the data, but you can other networks or other blockchain systems can read and process the data. And then we of course have this big thing of AIs coming up to help us, and that's why we also need to embed digital agents in this case. And there's for the network that we used for most of our projects, there's a great chance that the SIGPRO wallet will go in this direction, as I think the latest versions are impressive, and it's an amazing project. And I hope that I can work with the developers, for example, to include cycle for value tokens or the Gallery Defender tokens also in the wallet, and that we access metadata. There's also something to discuss. We have this NFT craze, and I stole today a picture from Alesha. It's a first slide, and I made an NFT, and you can also purchase this NFT. So if anyone else also wants to purchase this NFT, I will also use the earnings from this one and from the MAD 2021 logo to use it for a good cause. So thank you very much, and I'm sorry for the Zoom bombing. So Johnny Brown is obviously the person responsible for the Zoom bombing, and we will kick this person from our chat. And I give directly the stage, as it is past already, to Edith, so you can share your screen. And now I can take a little bit more care of Zoom itself. I will now re-enable the chat in a minute, and then I will also kick everyone from the chat who is misusing it. And so if you write something bad in the chat, you will be kicked within a second. Edith, I hope you still have the co-host rights, and then you can start.
Hello, my name is Edith Huber, and today we will give you an overview about child pornography, a variant of cybercrime. And we talking about this topic today. That is Wolfgang Heidegger. He's a senior expert security by the CAPS Trafficom, and his professional focus is application and infrastructure security. My name is Edith Huber, and I'm a senior scientist at the Danube University, and I research focus also on cybercrime and offender profiling. Today we will present you 4 chapters. First of all, I will give you a short overview. What does it mean, cybercrime? Then we'll switch to this topic, child pornography, with the focus of cyber grooming, especially in the content of gaming. Then Wolfgang will explain you the technical environment for this topic, and also the conclusion. I think somebody is in my presentation. Could you please kick him out? Thank you.
Sorry, 1 second.
We only allowed the chat function, so
Yes.
this is really strange.
Sorry, yes. I already kicked Karen out and reported her, as I am reporting everybody who is doing bad stuff. I'm not so sure if I'm sure there's someone else here.
Mahmed.
Because there were some people posting some weird emojis as well.
But it's really strange because
Yeah.
I stopped all activities, and
Yes.
I only
no
allowed
idea. Yeah.
chat. So
No idea how this is working. So let me see. Yeah, if something happens again, I will of course ban everybody and report everybody who will mess around. And worst case, we have to start the conference again, maybe. Do we want to continue?
Yes, I want to try to share it once more.
Mhm.
So, yes, and after the technical environment, he will give you a short conclusion. Now let's start with the topic of cybercrime. So, just a second. Just one moment, yes. If you see this slide, you can see the registered cybercrime cases in Austria. And this is from 2004 to 2020, and you can see the numbers are increasing. And if you have looked to the cybercrime activities, you have a lot of areas, offenses, and then you can, I will give you now a short overview of the offenses and of the areas. Yes, for example, if we speak about cybercrime, you have the area of the darknet, you have crime as a service, you have advanced persistent threats, fraud, identity theft, DDoS attacks, cyber stalking, cyber mobbing, child pornography, ransomware, phishing, payment fraud, fake news, social engineering, and a lot of more. This is only a short overview. And today we will focus on this area of child pornography. But first of all, we have to say, what does it mean, cybercrime, in a scientific view? Cybercrime is not only a cyber attack, and this is very important to know this. It depends on the legal framework of each country, and it depends on the cultural aspects of each country. There is a difference where we talk about hate crime, for example, in Austria and Russia. Wherever something is perceived as hate depends on the cultural aspects of the country. Another point is that the internet is the crime scene. But it doesn't mean an online activity is cybercrime. For example, if somebody ordered to kill another person just by sending an email, you do not commit of offenses within meaning of cybercrime. The scene of crime is just moved to the internet. Yes. And if you have a look to the scientific definition of cybercrime, we have two types of cybercrime. We have the core cybercrime and the cyber-enabled crime. The core cybercrime are the offenses that do not exist offline in any variant. These are the attacks against the confidentiality, integrity, availability of networks and devices. For example, cyber vandalism, spreading a virus, malware, or ransomware. And we have also the cyber-enabled crimes. These are the offenses can also exist offline. For example, is here the misuse of credit cards, information theft, cyber stalking, mobbing, and also child pornography. Please note, if we speak here of a very large industry. If you have to look to the child pornography, if you have to look to the child pornography industry, we can see a large industry that distributes images and videos, especially through illegal channels on the darknet. Furthermore, one must not forget that child pornography often combines with other crimes such as human trafficking, slavery, and prostitution. Now we want to switch to the next topic, to the child pornography. The Europol sees the crime as one of the biggest current threats, and social media file sharing, photo sharing sites, gaming devices, and mobile applications support the sharing of pictures and videos. Still, there is no denying the fact that as digitalization spreads, child pornography experiences a significant increase in content of consumption. And when we talk about child pornography, we don't always mean hardcore porn. Often children and minors share images and videos via gaming platforms or social media. These images or videos may contain pornographic details and be shared by the recipient on relevant platforms. The Internet Watch Foundation, the IWF, is an English organization with the goal of minimizing criminal misuse of sexuality with specific focus on the abuse of children. To achieve this, IWF analyzes relevant websites and evaluates the results of each year. 2019, the report documents that 9 from 10 websites containing child pornography are hosted in Europe, of their sites hosted Europe. 71% are hosted in Netherlands, which is equivalent to more than 93,000 URLs. If we speak about pornography by itself, is not a negative in the scientific literature. This is why, in case child pornography is known as child sexual abuse material, and child sexual exploitation materials are used quite frequently. So now I want to speak a little bit about cyber grooming. Sorry, but I have always this troll or this spamming in my presentation.
Oh, I see. It's again here. Oh my God. Alex, do you think we should restart?
I just edited in my main Zoom account these options that this is not. So I think the best is that we all leave the meeting and just rejoin it.
Yes.
So I kick out everyone, and then you have, of course, your minutes more and
okay, good.
So I think I just end the meeting for everyone.
And we will join again. Yeah.
Okay.